Pete in Espanola, New Mexico. Hey, Pete, what's up?
Hi, Tom. This is Pete Padilla in Espanola. I'd like to give kudos to Alex for the good show he did last week.
Amen. Thank you.
I'd like to raise the issue of the Democratic Party and the neoliberals, and I don't see this ever going to be a change until the influence of the neoliberals has been taken out of the Democratic Party and given back to the grassroots.
Broadly speaking, I don't disagree. I would phrase it a different way. I think that the neoliberal experiment, which was started what happened was in 1947, in September 1947, at Montpellier, either France or Switzerland, Friedman, I was going to say Thomas, Milton Friedman, and Friedrich von Hayek, and who's the third guy? Ludwig von Mises. Thank you, Troy. The three of them got together along with a fourth guy whose name is kind of lost to history and certainly lost to my brain. And they literally invented the phrase neoliberalism. And the theory was that government was always slow and incompetent, and the market was always fast and impeccable, that household work was women's work and shouldn't be considered as part of the economy, that the world, the planet, was a limitless resource and a limitless garbage deposit, and so we didn't have to assign value to that, and that we only really had to concern ourselves with the relationship between consumers and producers, and that the more we could financialize our economy, the better. This was the core of this philosophy that they called neoliberalism. It is wrong on almost every account. And it was ridiculed. In 47, when they started publishing papers, in 48, 49, 50, Russell Kirk, kind of shouts out to them in his book, The Conservative Mind, in 1951, but only in passing and almost like, a sideswipe compliment. Barry Goldwater rejected them by and large. William F. Buckley was very skeptical of them. They were viewed as they were somewhat embraced by the John Birch Society, but it was just way too much economics, right? And nobody really took them seriously until Ronald Reagan was elected. And when Ronald Reagan was elected, he surrounded himself with neoliberal economists, and Reaganomics, trickle-down economics, all this stuff. This is neoliberalism. And as Reagan went after the trade unions, which were the principal source of funding for the Democratic Party, and devastated them, there were people within the Democratic Party who said maybe we should adopt some parts of this neoliberal agenda. And that became the Democratic Leadership Council and the Third Way. And so both the Republicans and the Democrats have had their experiment, slightly different, but basically the same thing, with neoliberalism. It was also tried in Chile by Pinochet. It was tried in Russia by Yeltsin. It has been tried in a number of countries, and it has always failed to produce a democratic outcome. It has always produced what you might refer to as oligarchy. And it certainly has here in the United States. And Donald Trump, the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why he won the Republican nomination was because perhaps he wasn't smart enough to understand neoliberal theory, but he basically repudiated neoliberalism. Oh, the other cornerstone of neoliberalism that I forgot to mention was so-called free trade. And Trump said, screw that. We're not going to do free trade. We're going to do America first. We're going to do mercantilism. We're going to go back prior to neoliberalism. He didn't use these phrases, but everybody understood it. And when I saw that happening in the primary, I thought and I said on this program, he's going to eat the lunch of these Republicans because he's essentially running as a pre-neoliberal Democrat. And the Democrats who have succeeded, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, both in their campaigns, if you read Bill Clinton's stump speech, it was called A New Covenant. And if you listen to Barack Obama's stump speeches in 2008, they both were repudiations of neoliberalism. They rejected neoliberalism. Now, they didn't entirely govern that way, but that's what the American people want. They want an end to neoliberalism. And Trump is, rhetorically anyway so far, now he hasn't matched it with actions, but rhetorically, using his language, he has rejected neoliberalism, and I believe that is the only reason why 40% of Americans are still rock solid in their support of him. And if the Democrats, and Bernie Sanders rejected neoliberalism, and look at what happened there, and had the media covered it 18 months or 6 months, 8 months earlier, I think there's a good chance he would have. Well, who knows? I don't even want to go there, but. The point is that, number one, the media is never going to talk about this because the media has fully embraced neoliberalism, because at the core of neoliberalism is corporate control of government and of society. And the media now is these giant corporations. But secondly, as more and more Democrats and a few Republicans are starting to say, to hell with this neoliberalism stuff, we are not going to go down that road. It is a failed experiment. We're going to go back to our core principles, whether they be Barry Goldwater conservatism, with or without the racism on the Republican side, or whether it be FDR and Lyndon Johnson, Great Society, New Dealism. We're going to go back to fundamentals. Those people are starting and will continue to win elections. And that is in my opinion, the great hope for America. Pete, thanks for the call.